So hello everybody, this is American Steel Predictions, and I'm back with a new video. Today, like I said yesterday, how I did the video on Western Pennsylvania and how it moved to the GOP, and how it's now like dominated by Republicans, even though it used to be pretty Democratic. But now I'm doing the opposite video, as I said from yesterday. The Philly suburbs. The Philly suburbs went completely the other way. They were Republican, but now they're staunch Democrat. Although Bucks County is still somewhat close, but I'll talk about that kind of later. But we'll start off with 1988. This is really when it started the show. So as you can see, George H.W. Bush narrowly won against Michael Dukakis. The main reason why Michael Dukakis did so well is because he kicked ass in the Pittsburgh area. This really helped him out, and he still did very well in Philadelphia. And he kept the margins somewhat low in even northwestern Pennsylvania. That was able to make it close. But he still lost because central Pennsylvania, the T, still came out big time from. But I think the main reason he won was because of the Philly suburbs of Chester, Bucks, Delaware, and Montgomery. Now, if you go through Montgomery's history, we'll start with Montgomery first. I think this county has to be the biggest, the most populous county in that region that's shifted left. As you can see, it's pretty Republican all throughout the decade. Even Alf Landon FDR couldn't even win it once, actually. Johnson actually was able to win it, but it's not really by like a certain margin. And then they returned back to the GOP in 1968 with Richard Nixon winning it. Yada yada yada. Nixon did well. Gerald Ford won it. Reagan twice. And then 1988 came along, and Bush still held a 60-point margin. However, this would be the last time they vote Republican at all, actually. As for some reason, I know that the economy hurt in 1992, but it made, and I know that George H.W. Bush was going to do worse than he did from 1988. But it swung like I don't know, like 25 points left in one election year from the previous one. That's pretty impressive. Like, George H.W. Bush, even though he was a moderate Republican, well, that's how he won so big time in 1988. But for some reason, George H.W. Bush lost that appeal, as a lot of moderates flocked over to Bill Clinton and Ross Perot. And basically, we saw huge dwindles in the GOP. And then, continuing 1996 came along. We continue to see the margin expand even in 2000. Al Gore did better upon Bill Clinton of 1996, and then Kerry did better than Gore, and Obama did better than Kerry did. Although it would see a small swing back in 2012, Mitt Romney having good suburban appeal, but then it bounced right back with Hillary beating Trump by a pretty wide margin in the county. And then finally, 2020, Biden becoming the first Democrat, I think, in like forever, to crack 60% of the vote in Montgomery County. Now, I do think this is basically what's keeping the Democratic Party of Pennsylvania alive, but it's not going to last much longer, as Montgomery County is pretty basically close to being maxed out. Like, I think literally like every Republican besides Heather Heidel underperformed Trump. It's now considered to be a Democratic stronghold at this point. It's Republican parts, the Republican counterparts of the county are way gone. So yeah. Now we're going to talk about Delaware County. Now, just like Montgomery County, this county, very similar. However, it's not as populated as nearby Montgomery, but it still is somewhat populated. It's still part of the Philly suburbs. I forgot to film Montgomery. I'm going to put Delaware in there too. So as you can see here, again, starting in 1992, that for some reason Philly's suburbs drifted way far off a cliff in 1992. I think it's somewhat suburban, but it's just absurd how Georgia H.W. Bush won these by like 20 points, and then they dwindled down to like a 1 point win for Bill Clinton. Like like George H.W. Bush was fled moderates and moderate Republicans in 1992, and then they continued to vote Democrat with Bill Clinton winning it by close to 10. That margin continued to almost 12 points in 2000, and then yada yada yada. Obama became the first Democrat to reach 60, and continuing, it would become pretty Democratic with only like a few working class precincts left in the county that voted for Trump. So that's basically it for Delaware. Now we're gonna move on to Bucks. Now Bucks County, unlike Montgomery and Delaware, this county is actually more uh, is somewhat more swing-like, but it doesn't really budge. It just kind of stays around the same. It kind of just stays around the 4-point win. Probably because there's mostly working class voters in the South End, but the Republicans are making progress in this more working class part, but Democrats are making progress in the more elite area, the more richer part. So it kind of adds up. So you're not going to be really seeing a ton of change in Bucks County. It's going to remain a swing county basically, and I wouldn't be surprised if it could go red. Or it could be red-leaning, but Republicans just don't spend the time in Bucks County. I know Trump did do a rally there back in 2020, but it's always just a nail-biter by you think of vote Republican at red wave here, but then it just doesn't. I mean, it's just a weird county. Now, Chester County, on the other hand, completely opposite on the other hand. Now, it's still more Republican than both Delaware and Montgomery, but my gosh, like, they hated Trump so much in the county. Like, I think this is actually the main reason why Biden won Pennsylvania in 2020. Like, it was staunch Democrat. It would be affected by that, like, in that 1992 election where basically every Philly suburb trended like 20 points left. Basically did like an Atlanta, Georgia. Did in 2020, but probably somewhat even worse, to be honest. Although, yeah. And then the margins, it would say it bounced back up a bit in 2000. Like Bush won it by almost 10 points, but then it dwindled back down to like a 5-point win. Finally, John McCain lost it by around 10 points, and then Mitt Romney flipped it back one last time, very narrowly by 0.2%. But then they did not like Trump's populist appeal at all, lost it by close to 10, and then lost it by like 17 points in 2020. So yeah, Chester County, but like literally every Republican on the ballot outperformed Trump, so there's that. And I think it's going to remain somewhat more competitive, like at state levels, at county-wide levels, instead of presidential levels. But you got the idea. It's not a red county anymore. It's a blue county. So I guess I could put Bucks in, but yeah. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. American Steel Predictions out.